Very welcome to my session. My name is Nelly, and I'm glad you have made it today. And just a quick thing about myself. I'm a front-end lead at Challenger Company. It's a financial company. I work on site-core systems, like a CMS websites, and I'm taking care of the front-end. So 3 facts about me is, one is obviously you see that I'm in the IT industry for many years since I started working. The other thing is I like to be part of the community and share my knowledge, support women in IT or meetups or user groups, anything. And then the last thing is, this is my favorite place, I love nature. So I told you about myself. I just want to quickly see who is a front-end developer in this room. Oh, amazing, wow. And I assume the others are back-end? Just one person? Okay, that's good. Yeah, right. Okay, can I please get you to write your questions down, because there might be some buzzwords, and I try to explain all, but if you can hand over the questions before demo, I can make sure that I cover everything as much as I can. So we have a quick demo as well. All right, let's go through the agenda. That looks confusing, as hell as confusing. So I think because the front-end world is confusing, so this is why we have these things here. But let's forget about this. Let's be pragmatic. And I'll tell you, we actually have 2 essentials and fundamental things in front-end world. One is JavaScript. One is CSS, and they are both literally a piece of shit. This is, I tell you. And all these tools you can see on the board, they come around to fix the issues around these 2 items. Also, the frameworks over there, like Angular, React, whatever, Vue.js, they came around to utilize these tools to help developers, facilitate the things they're doing. So just help you to make sure that you take over these problems. But let's get out of this hell and have a look at a brief version of agenda. So we'll go through JavaScript and its problems. We talk about some tools which come around to fix the issues and help us, like the transpilers, module bundlers, linting tools, and the others. And same for CSS world. All right, ready to go? Okay. JavaScript is a fire. This is the most realistic way of demonstrating, JavaScript. When it's in control, it's awesome, it's useful. When it's out of control, it's danger. It can burn everywhere. So the users who, use JavaScript, they will love it. They enjoy working with JavaScript. They get a lot of nice features like interactive behaviors in the website, all awesome user experiences. They never get blocked on the screen because JavaScript is asynchronous language. So they never suffer from blocking their browser when they invoke any functionality. JavaScript is most popular and most commonly used language. If it's not the first one, it's definitely the second one. However, developers are like firefighters. They have to deal with the problems of JavaScript. They have to make sure that everything is sorted and it's not dangerous anymore. So just put up with all these problems, to be honest. If I show you a little bit of history about JavaScript, you can understand how how you might get burned if you play with the fire, and which part of JavaScript is quite dangerous. Have you heard of ECMAScript before? Good. So ECMAScript is like standard for JavaScript. Kind of imagine that they are the team behind JavaScript who make changes and release features and these sort of things. So JavaScript was born in 1997, but in just 10 days. Can you imagine a language is written in 10 days? So you can imagine how inappropriate this language is, and lots of error, bugs, and problems it would probably have. But it was supposed to be a proof of concept, not an actual language to be used. However, since developers are so, they're so kind, they just fell in love with JavaScript and started using JavaScript every day, constantly, without even waiting for the appropriate and proper version to be released. So, why I'm talking about, when I say that it's inappropriate language, I'm talking about the problems around this particular version of JavaScript. Just make sure that I'm talking about ES5 version. Each version is a chronological number, so they release ES1, 2, 3, and 5. So JavaScript, whatever you expect from a proper language, JavaScript doesn't have that. You probably expect, for example, classes, functions, proper variables, just the basic things. But you wouldn't get it from JavaScript. There is no object-oriented design in JavaScript. You have a lot of problems with variables. They are globally defined, so they can override each other. You should make sure that, oh my God, how I define my variable to make sure that it's safe. You have lack of modularity. There's actually no modularity in JavaScript version ES5. All the objects are loosely typed. They are dynamically typed. It means that there's no string, integer, decimal, you just define a variable and you can use it whatever you want. It's just free style. And the more importantly, there is this is one sample file for JavaScript in the old world. There is a long file which you have to put everything inside just one file. And you have to manage the order of your functions. Let's say function B make a call to function A. So you should make sure that you put the function A on the top. So independent should go on the top, dependent should go afterwards. And same for libraries. If you want to introduce any libraries like jQuery, Bootstrap, or anything, you have to keep in mind that, okay, jQuery should be first, the other one should be second. It's terrible, it's horrible. You cannot manage it, especially when the application grows, how you can manage it. This is why I said JavaScript is fire. It just definitely will get burned if you touch it. However, this is the only choice developers have. There's no other substitution for JavaScript, even today, after many years. So what's but that? So shall we put up with all these craps and just keep working? No, of course not. I'm going to introduce you a new generation of JavaScript, which is ES 2015. So since the ECMAScript team realized that, oh my God, these developers don't go away, whatever crap we just give them, they keep using that. So they realized that this website's constantly built, and then it's, the world of Frontend is getting on the top of JavaScript now. So it's quiet. The problems are getting too far complex to even solve. So they had to do something for that. They had to address all the issues. So in 2015, they decided to do a significant major release to make sure that they cover and they address all the problems. Even they changed the naming, the version is not anymore ES6, ES5, they changed it to ES 2015. But you don't mind if I say ES6 sometimes, because it's just hard to say. So, so significant update came around at 2015, and JavaScript just changed a lot. So it's now can be competitive language with even C# or other languages. It has whatever you want. It is supporting object-oriented. It is supporting, I just put some features here. You can go through the whole website. So you have the classes, you have proper functions, you have modules, you have proper variables, scoped variables. You don't override variables all the time. You have proper promise chaining for supporting the asynchronous programming. Whatever you want, you just have in this version. So your websites are increasingly, growing, and all the frameworks like Angular, React, or whatever, they all based on this version of JavaScript. And you can probably see that over the last 4 years, how, like increasingly these websites are leaning toward the front-end world. So, the other thing is ES5 is not obsolete, so you still can use it, but does it make sense to use it? Of course not, at least for me. So, shall we go and say, okay, the drama is over, all good, we can go home and use JavaScript from today? Unfortunately, no. I'll show you why. So there is a necessary interdependent relationships between browsers and JavaScript. So no matter how JavaScript progress, still they're dependent on browsers. The reason is JavaScript is not a compiled language. JavaScript is a runtime language. So it means that when you ship the JavaScript to the browsers of your users, now it's getting run. So you need browser's engine to run JavaScript. There's no other choice. And since each browser has different engine, different behaviors, you expect that. And these different behaviors makes a little bit problems. And I'll show you what are those issues, which are these ones. We go through each of them. Some issues around the new features, some issues with loading modules, and of course unknown problems when you run the application. Let's go through the first one. Okay, you built your website with ES 2015. You're proudly saying that this is my new feature, this is my new website, it's all up to date, very nice. You go to your customer to do a showcase, and you just show them that this is the code I use classes, I use different variable types, let, const, I use for each, even you didn't have for each before, that's funny. So you're happy, however, everything is broken on on the customer's browser. Why? What's going on? It's just so shameful, it's so bad. I understand how it's going on. So the problem is the browsers are at the service of JavaScript. They are kind of handmaiden. But this service is not fully and properly given yet. What does it mean? So it means that the browsers should go and learn the features. They should go and learn ES5 features, commands, problems. They should go and learn ES6 again, ES7 again. So it's a terrible process for browsers even. But they try their best. The implementation of new features are on their way. They try to learn, especially evergreen browsers, which are Chrome, Firefox. They learn quicker. They're so progressing very well. However, the legacy browsers like IE and the other stuff, mobile browsers, they are still trying a little bit slower. So since at this point of time, JavaScript is ahead. But in the future, maybe it's not the case. So everything might be good. Anyway, for the time being, we have to do something about it. And the solution, transpilers. Have you heard of transpilers? Okay. So transpilers are kind of bridging the gap between browsers and JavaScript, new features, I mean. So it means that you write your proper code in ES 2015, easy, work properly as an honor developer, very nice, and then hand over your code to the transpiler. So it gets all your code, which is in the most famous one is Babel. You pass the code to the Babel. Babel goes through all the features and try to translate the ES6 features to old version of JavaScript. So I'll show you the website of the Babel. So simply you just give the new features and it gives you back old features. All good. So now you have consistency in your browsers because they are all ES5 compliant. You have the consistency. You make sure that all the browsers behave in the same way, which is good. Second problem. So, that humans make mistakes, so it's okay, we are okay with that, and it happened in all languages, it's not only JavaScript. But the fact is JavaScript is more prone to issues and problems because, you know, since I told you it's not a compiled language, you cannot really identify the problems in the compiling phase. You have to ship your code and then, now deal with the problems. So we need something to add some degree of safety to our code, right? To at least a little bit make sure that, okay, we are not doing some basic mistakes at least. People suggest you have to use unit testing, which makes sense, we use, but you cannot say that unit testing covers 100%, can you? So we need some other tools, and the best one is the linting tools, and the most famous one is ESLint tool. So ESLint catches all the issues before you deliver your website to your customers. So you just run ESLint on your code, and ESLint makes sure that, okay, you use the variable, but you haven't defined it. Okay, I'll go and define it. You open the bracket, you didn't close it. Okay, I'll go and fix it. So these problems might break your code, but you don't realize because it's a big file and you just miss a little bit semicolon, a little bit, like bracket, and they all can cause a lot of issues, which are really doesn't make sense because they are really small issues and can be fixed. So ESLint is a big help for us. And other than ESLint, you have more nice like software, like the Prettier or the other things. They kind of format your text. They make sure that everything is fine. So unit testing, ESLinting, and the other things makes a big difference. The last problem, but not the least, to be honest, it's actually the biggest one to me. I wouldn't imagine you can develop any language, but you don't have modules. How it's possible? If you are a backend developer, like let's say C#, you know that everything is just classes, right? You just import classes and use them. In ES5, we didn't have this option. How crazy it is, how it's possible. But in ES6, they added support to the modules. So out of the box, we have import, export, keyword. So you define your function, you add export. It means that the other guys can go and import this module, which is great, amazing. And this is, for example, one website, which we have our demo on the top of this. So you click on the button, you make a call to magazine, let's say a module. It go and open the magazine module, run it, and then show this little banner for you. Okay, this is the expected behavior. However, again, when you run your application, you see the import keyword is it's not known. Browsers don't understand what's going on with this import export. And to be honest, it kind of makes sense, it's fair, because it's a very tough job. You have to realize all the dependency, you need to know which module should be loaded first and which one should be loaded the second time. So it's not an easy job to me. But it's a kind of skill set that browsers should have. Solution, module bundlers. Module bundlers and specifically webpack, which is a tool for module bundlers, it's quite amazing. All the frameworks like React, Angular, the others, they all on the top of this webpack. They all utilize this webpack. It's an amazing tool. What it does is you just give the code you write, 10, 20 modules, then give your code to webpack. Webpack go through all the scripts, all the files, and make sure that it identifies the relationships, right? Then it create and generate a dependency graph for you. So now Webpack knows, okay, function A needs function B, and then this chain is going on. What Webpack does is just pile up all the files based on the dependency, which is already identified, pile up the files, and bundle up all of them in just one file. Great. So it's considered the dependency is just make our work super easy. I love it. And the nice thing is, out of the box, it gives you more tools. It can give you all the loaders, so you don't need to go and use the Babel again separately. You just add Babel loader in webpack. You add more plugins to minify, to uglify, to make your file smaller and ship it in a customer's browser in an easier way. So it just gives you a lot of functionality out of the box, which is amazing. You definitely go and try it. I love it. Same situation, not only you can import your own modules, but also you can import the other people's modules. Like you can use all the third-party libraries as you wish. And you don't reinvent the wheel, right? You have to use the libraries in the front-end world. So if you're a back-end developer, you know that NuGet package manager is the package manager for your dependencies. In front-end world, the most famous one is NPM. I know many of you work with this. It's really critical to understand and know and be quite comfortable with this NPM because it's manage your libraries. It just gives you a lot of functionality out of the box, which I show you. So let's say you want to add a library like jQuery. You just go install it, download your package, and add the dependency, the reference to the package.json file. So when you have a look at your package.json file, you know what libraries you use. Also, it gives you a task runner out of the box. What is the task runner? So you don't want to go and write the script, and I talked about compiling, transpiling, bundling, ESLinting. All of them are based on commands. You don't want to write commands over and over, right? You need some kind of automation to run your commands. So NPM out of the box gives you this opportunity. So you define your script and you just say npm run command 1, npm run command 2. We all know that PowerShell, Bash, or many other scripts do it for you, but npm gives you a lot of options out of the box, so everything is just integrated in your application, which is good. I'll show you in the demo. All right, enough talk about JavaScript. Once upon a time, the website's decorated with a bold heading tag, blue hyperlink, and a simple text. That's it. Then CSS3 came along. They added more features, nice animations, nice transitions, background, many beautiful things, which is appealing to the eyes and attractive for users. So all the user experience, is just amazing. However, again, I don't know why nobody think about developers. So it's horrible for developers. It's horrible to use. This is the most terrible language, to be honest, I ever worked. In JavaScript, at least you had some variables, but they are global scope. Here, even you don't have any variable. You don't have nothing, no function, no module, no reusability. And as designers, which love CSS, as designers push CSS to its limitations and boundaries, it's just getting hell for developers. The maintenance of applications are really frustrating. So someone should come and help us, right? This is our hero, preprocessors. And SASS is the top one. So they come and said, okay, you have your proper language. I give you all these options like variables, operators, mixins. Mixins is kind of, reusable code. Functions, you have everything you want. Do your work, mind your business, and then since browsers don't understand, of course, SASS files, you have to give them CSS. So SASS gives you a compiler which, again, bundle everything, manage things to be CSS. So Mr. Compiler just take care of everything and then push things to one CSS files, which is amazing. Plus this, you can use some CSS frameworks like Bootstrap, Google Material, or the other frameworks. They give you out of the box lots of SASS features like SASS functions, predefined classes, and I think since last year they all moved to be SASS based, which is good. All right, so demo time. Let's go, and for the time being, I end this presentation. I open the demo. All right. This is my ID. I use VS Code, which is amazing because it has the command prompt. It has many extensions. I think you know this ID. So back in the days, when you open your front-end project, you only see one HTML, one CSS, and one JavaScript. But nowadays, when I open your project, you see a lot of files here, lots of config files, lots of JavaScript files, and you know them because you have lots of pre-processing works, right? So you have to manage things and then ship only 3 things to user, which is still same as the before. So for example, I have a lot of scripts, I have a lot of SASS files, but if I open my HTML file, you can see I only ship this HTML, just one index file, and just one CSS file. So we need now to manage things and get these files out of this big project. All right, let's talk about scripts first, okay? Let me wear my glasses. So, we talked about webpack, which is module bundler, right? I'll show you how we get webpack, how we use the features. I have to show you the package.json file first. You remember what was that, right? So when you install a library, you get everything in this package.json. So if I go and say, for example, npmi webpack, it will go download webpack, save the reference in my package.json, which is this one. And now that I have the reference, I can use webpack's command. So to get webpack to do whatever you want to do, you need to define like a config file and instruct webpack to go and see this config file and just execute all the things you asked for. This is the config file. If I show you this, it's quite simple. You just give the entry point. For example, you have a app file which import the other files I show you. This is my entry point file. I imported the other modules in this one. So you ask webpack to go and see my app file and see what dependence modules I have in this file, generate your dependency graph. Then you just instruct webpack to where copy my file, my output. That's it. I ask it to create an index.js file for me. And then you can add, you can ignore these options, but you can add like the Babel loader on the way. So you just add some modules, and then you can add more plugins like a minification, uglification, or the other stuff. Now you should go and run webpack like this. Webpack, please go and read my config file, which is webpack config, right? But it's just boring. You cannot do it over and over, write the commands. So here is the task runners come along. So I told you, npm give you out of the box the task runner option. So you define your scripts like here. You say that I have a script called bundle. Webpack, please go and read the config file and then run the commands for me. Now I would say npm run this bundle command, which is easier. So when I run it, this is the generated file. I make it, I just delete it. Oops. And then I run this command. Hopefully it works. So it's just going through the app file, and figure out that there are more dependent modules. So it goes through all of them. Even if they make a call to other functions, it's just find them. And now you have the index file. What else I show you in the demo? Oh, this is the website of webpack. It's quite useful, very handy. It has a well documentation, so just make sure that you cover whatever you need here. Let's go through a little bit of styles, SASS. So the good thing about modular functional programming is you can separate, the concerns. Separation of concerns is what you get out of the box. So for example, if my website has a banner and a sidebar and a button, I can style each of them in a separated file. This is my button, this is my banner, which is amazing. And you see all of them are partial files, which you need somehow to import them. They are not getting executed on their own. So you have a main file, which is not the partial, and you import whatever whatever you need from the SASS files. So when I import files here, now they just pile up in this main file. And I can compile this file, easy. So you can see that in the package.json, you have SASS command. It's a script. For example, you come here, you say npm install, save, and then node SASS, let's say. Now you can use the node SASS command and ask node SASS to go and read the main SASS file and just generate a CSS file. That easy. Okay, that's good. What is SASS though? A little bit about SASS. So this is a playground. If you want to learn SASS, just make sure that you visit this one. So here is your variable. So you don't have to write FFFF for all the white colors in your website. You just define your colors, then you use them by name, which is good enough. Mixins. So you want to have some reusable code. You want to generate this piece of code, but with different variables, with different parameters. So you define the mixin, which accepts some parameters, and then you include this mixin with different variables. For example, here, I included light theme with the white color and dark theme with the gray color. And here is my generated CSS. So it's saying that the light theme, if we have the light theme class, the banner should be white if we have the dark theme. So you have like if else, you can check if the variable is this, do that. So it's just amazing. And you have for each, you have whatever you need from a language, from a proper language. I have the same thing, so I defined all my styles, all my classes, and that's it. Now, I need you to have a look at the demo quickly. Maybe in the old world of Java, like the front end, they expected me to go and open my HTML in the file browser, right? Just open and have a look. But I'm not going to do that because I don't want to deal with the problems of file security, relative path, or the other stuff. I used another library. This is a nice thing about using, a modern front-end world. So I use this browser sync. I just come npm install browser sync. Now I can use the browser sync in my script. So when I say npm run serve, which is a script on the top, it's just going, open my website, manage all the links, all the relative path, all the image path, everything. And the nice thing is, it just gives me out of the box one URL. I'm not connected to the internet, so you don't see the IP address. But it gives me an IP address, and you can simply connect to my IP address and have a look at my website. So it's how amazing it's for the user, for the testers. They can, sit with you, you run your application, and they look on the mobile or the other devices. So if I have a look at the developer tools, I see that we still have just 3 files shipped to the user. This is the index file, like the HTML, 1 JS file, and 1 CSS file. So it means that everything is fine. And then I click on this one. I'm not connected to the internet, so this one is connecting to the Yamli website, which is the recipe website, and download all the new recipes. So this is not working because I'm not on the internet. But for example, I click on the button, it just shows me what is the calorie of this food. How about the other one? I click on the magazine, it's just opening another module for me, make a call to other modules, and run my code. So if you have a look at my scripts, you see that, like this module, I define the classes, proper functionalities, and like the variables, everything. And then I just make instantiate of my class here, like exactly same as C# or the other languages. New this class for me, and then use all the functionality. How amazing it is, right? So you have proper functionalities from JavaScript, which is so good. I show you a little bit of ESLint as well. So I told you ESLint catch all the problems, right? At the moment, if I say ESLint run on my code, it said, you're good to go, Nelly, no problem at all. But now I'm coming and say a variable like x with 0, 9, okay. But I haven't used it anywhere, right? So if I run the ESLint, oh no, you have defined the variable, so one problem is found. And you haven't used it, but you assigned it, so it's not good practice. So if you go through the ESLint website, you see that you use all they give you lots of rules. You can override them, you can ignore some of them, you can add more rules. So these rules define how is your standard should be, how your code should be, properly written. So I have a config file which make a call to that website and then use their rules, which is good. Let's get back here. What time is it? Okay, that's good. I ran my PowerPoint again. So the wrap up. We talked about JavaScript and the problems and how 2015 came to help us. But if you want to be a proper front-end developer, you definitely need to learn these things like NPM, webpack, SASS. And you might come and say, okay, why we don't go through and just get one framework to help, right? Why we need to learn these things? I would say, to me, to any, there is a process to any kind of learning that if you go and apply some packages or frameworks and then just use it, you wouldn't get the same degree of learning as you would have if you go through the actual process. So this helps you getting a proper and deep understanding of what you're doing. At the same time, if someday, you just feel that you don't like using frameworks, you just go and be yourself and then just ignore about all the frameworks and then stick to your code. And to be honest, in some scenarios, you cannot even use the frameworks. Like the scenario that I'm in for the Sitecore project, it's not quite compatible using any framework with the Sitecore. So I had to set up all my frameworks on my own using webpack and Babel and everything. So in some situation, as a front-end developer, you have to have proper knowledge to, be flexible. I have my website, so I upload, probably by tomorrow, I will upload all the slides, everything you need, the code. And then you have a great support from the community of the Frontend Vault. So here, the second one, Ken Doddes, he's amazing. Even I had an interview with him to show you, but I will add it to my webpack, website. I'll talk about webpack a lot. So he's amazing. He had a beautiful website. You ask your questions, and in 24 hours he just come back to you. You get a lot of help and support from the Frontend community, and all the websites leaning towards the framework these days. So it's amazing if you have proper knowledge to deal with those ones. And thanks to our sponsors who facilitate everything for us. And then if you have any questions, please come and ask me. Otherwise, I'm in the conference all the day, so we can talk more. Thank you.